But welcome to The Takeout. I'm Ed O'Keefe, in today for Major Garrett. Tonight here in Washington, members of the White House Press Corps, of which this correspondent is a proud member, are gathering again with colleagues and bosses and many of the people we cover in the Trump administration for take two of the White House Correspondents Association dinner. This is the event rescheduled after April's dinner was suddenly interrupted by an attempted presidential assassin. You'll remember this scene as the president, first lady, and other guests realized there'd been a disturbance in the Washington Hilton. An armed would-be gunman ran through what had been a security checkpoint and was stopped, mostly by his own apparent fall, as he tried to storm a ballroom below packed with roughly 2,600 ticketed guests. The president, first lady, vice president, and dozens of other VIPs were quickly whisked out of the room. Eventually, our own Weijia Jiang, who chaired the Correspondents Association and the dinner at the time, stepped out with these words.
On a night when we are thinking about the freedoms in the First Amendment, we must also think about how fragile they are. I saw all of you reporting, and that's what we do. Thank God everybody is safe, and thank you for coming together tonight. We will do this again.
What this correspondent will always remember about that night is, first of all, Weijia's incredible poise and ability to calmly explain what had happened to the world. But perhaps more vividly, I'm going to remember what many of the White House correspondents in the room did next. With the world watching, we ran back to the White House. Some even rented city bikes and scooters to get there faster in their heels or a tux. The mad scramble back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue happened even when our lives were at least briefly in danger. We got to work figuring out what had happened. What was a terrible moment, and one that could have been so much worse, was arguably the finest hour, at least I'd witnessed as a member of the White House Press Corps. Now look, covering the White House is by no means like covering a war or being on the police beat or showing up like the woman next to me does often to cover mass violence in this country or around the world. Reporters who do that are the true heroes of this line of work. But it was the finest hour for those on the presidential beat, I'd argue, because some nights the work's about yet another attempted attack on the presidency and a serious security vulnerability. And some days the work is focused on heady issues like war, tariffs, and presidential politics, as it is today. So we celebrate all that again tonight. Not the president, the man, or the institution, but the people who cover that man and institution, and most especially the constitutionally protected right affording us the ability to cover him. You might not like that the guest list includes the president or people who work for him, or the appearance of journalists mingling with the people they cover, but just remember the intent of it, to celebrate the First Amendment and everything and everyone that amendment protects, and the people like Weijia and the CBS News team and hundreds of others who partake in that right every day and cover the most powerful institution in the world. So let's turn now to CBS's Nicole Sganga, one of those who covers issues of violence and security on a regular basis. Good to see you. You are here because you are monitoring for what is now expected to be a pretty revamped Secret Service operation tonight at this dinner.
Revamped and very different. First of all, well said, Ed O'Keefe. Second of all, since you're a trivia guy, I will share with you that the Washington Hilton has hosted the White House Correspondents Dinner 62 times since 1968. And this will be the first time that it is somewhere else, and in this case, the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. So the dinner has a new home, which means it has an entirely different security checkpoint. And in a very rare appearance today, the Secret Service director came out this week with the Deputy Director, Matt Quinn. And we were asking a lot of questions about how will this be different? How will it be a redo? And he said, look, this is an entirely different venue. So there have been separate site assessments conducted by the Secret Service for this specific event. At the Waldorf Astoria, hotel guests and dinner attendees are going to be routed through entirely separate entrances. We did not see that at the Washington Hilton. Dinner guests have to pass through a single controlled access point where their credentials are going to be checked before they can get anywhere near the ballroom. That's also new. Outside, the security is going to be unmistakable, both physical security barriers and, this is rare, Secret Service personnel outside of what's called the clean zone. Yeah. So mulling about outside of the hotel, in part because of deterrence, letting people know that they're there. And you'll see both officers in plain sight and officers in plain clothes. So there's going to be a little bit of both there. Obviously, this stepped-up posture also comes amid an absolutely unprecedented time for the Secret Service, and we can talk a little bit more about the threats.
You mentioned this morning that they have already, through July protected 3,000, was it, individual
yes, so
events?
Beginning since January, the Secret Service has protected 3,000 different events for all of the protectees, I should say, not just the president.
Right. That's like a Trump speech,
yes.
a Vance appearance, the Obama library opening.
Yes.
All sorts. 3,000, though.
Mark Wayne Mullen, who's the DHS secretary, or anything the Treasury secretary does, or if Stephen Miller goes on an official event. And the agency has opened up roughly 10,000 protective intelligence cases since January. So to give you a sense, every time there's a threat to a Secret Service protectee, another investigation is opened. Compare that to last year, it's about 40 times higher. Now, why is that? Or I should say 40% higher, Ed. Why is that? We're seeing a slew of online threats. We're seeing this sort of global threat environment with the ongoing war with Iran. Those threats are very, very real. And of course, you have lone actors that are still a concern for the Secret Service, and 10 times more mental health interventions this year than last year, which is a lot.
And they're asking for the public's help more actively than they have before.
That's so interesting. If you remember during the UFC event, it was actually the suspect's mother that stepped forward and said, hey, take a look at this. And that's how that threat, that plot was thwarted. So they're actually asking the public, if you see something or a neighbor, a friend, a colleague is showing a behavioral indicator of targeted violence or just acting a little bit funny, come forward. We need the public's help in order to handle all of these thousands of cases.
All right. Nicole Sganga, who covers Homeland Security and Secret Service, among other things. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. And a quick programming note, you can watch live portions of the White House Correspondents' Dinner right here tonight on CBS News 24/7. CBS's Nicole Killion joins me now from the White House. Nicole, good to see you. Do we have any sense from the White House of what we can expect in the president's remarks tonight?
Well, to put it in the words of Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she said that the president's speech will be a combination of, quote, unifying yet vicious and serious yet hilarious all at the same time. She says that the president's speech will, if anything, be entertaining. But obviously, we know that this could take on potentially a different tone, contrary to what we saw back in April, given what happened then with a gunman busting into the Washington Hilton shortly before the president was set to take the stage. So this, as you know, Ed, will be a more smaller, a more intimate setting. So we will see how the president delivers his remarks accordingly. I did have a chance a short time ago to speak with Stephen Miller, the president's deputy chief of staff for policy. I asked him how he was feeling about the event, and he told me that, you know, by and large, he is grateful for law enforcement, specifically grateful for the Secret Service and all the work that they have put into this event to make it safe. And he acknowledged, hopefully, too, we can also have a little bit of fun tonight.
Vicious but funny is how she put it? That's what we should expect tonight?
That's how she put it.